So I decided to put a really fun lineup of wines together. First one that we're going to try is from Château Léoube. This is a rosé from the south of France, Provence appellation. This is on the higher tier side. When you're putting a lineup of rosés together, you want to reward the wines in the proper order. There's a delicacy and a beauty and a focus to the wines of Provence. And some appellations are a little bit bigger. They might not cost as much, but they are a little more vocal, and it's hard to go in a downward direction when tasting. So I put these in an order after opening them that I believed would be the right order. So we're going to start off with one of the more expensive wines tonight. This is from south of France in Provence. If you've ever been there, magnificent real estate right on the Mediterranean. Uh, this brand is called Léoube. It has been a very successful brand, started at just the right time, doesn't have the 200 or 300 or 500 year history. But in 1997, it was kind of like Rosé's bottom in the world of wine. And maybe they felt that and they said, let's respond to this opportunity and come in and re-excite the rosé marketplace. When I started in the restaurant world, which was in the late 1980s, early 1990s, rosé was really limited in its application. The most successful wine at the time was White Zinfandel. That was our rosé experience. And White Zinfandel didn't create a lot of high tier rosé fans. It was great for the wine industry. It brought a lot of people into the wine industry, and a lot of us started with something sweeter, more approachable, and um, that's the entry point. Well, a lot of people think wine people start off in some high tier direction. Most of us enter into wine through the channels of sweet wine, and our palates start to become a little drier, but hopefully not to a point where our palates dry out and we can no longer enjoy sweet wines. Sweet wines are amazing. But rosé plays in all spectrums, and this is really focused on top tier Provence styling. Let's get into that a little bit more. Of course, if you're going to build a beautiful winery in Provence, it's got to look just like this. It's like a patent, a program that you have to follow. You have to have a beautiful chateau. And then you use a method called direct to press to make the wines. They grow the grapes on the ocean, lavender on the hills. The summer is in the air, the salt air blowing through these vineyards, optimal for growing Cinsault, Grenache, Mourvedre, and other varieties that are found in Provence. Léoube is they consider themselves artists of rosé, and they're very much good stewards to the land because it's the land that makes this wine special. So they have really followed very high standards, and they do have great diversification on the property, and it's a very awesome spot to be a rosé producer. Don't get too much closer to the ocean. You really don't. I think as a brand, they have some of the most ocean accessible vineyards in the business. Now, this is a $50 rosé from Provence. You go into the website, you can see some of the details. It does have Grenache and Cinsault, and just a kiss of Cabernet was introduced in this particular version. Let's take a look at it. Lower yields, delicately scented, more exotic aromas, herbs, fennel, touch of anise. Finally, textured. The Cabernet is giving credit for adding a little bit more texture and oomph. Alcohol's restrained here. When you smell the glass, you can actually see that your nose, your face is getting pretty close to that glass before you smell anything. And what you do smell is very almost perfume-like, really restrained because it's of its place being Provence, the way the sun ripens grapes. Plus, they're picking these grapes barely ripe. They want to show off the acidity. As you smell this wine, my mouth's just starting to salivate, just smelling the wine, because that's almost like your mouth trying to protect itself from this drilling acidity that you know you're about to experience. So let's taste it. Almost like crunchy grape skins in your mouth. Really wonderful intensity. There's a concentration here. It's not very diluted. It's elevated. This wine is called Secret of Léoube. There is a less expensive Château Léoube Provence Rosé. Very nice. But this is at the high tier. And for many, this represents one of the best in Provence. We could taste them side by side. Domaine Opt, Whispering Angel at their high tier. This is Léaube's high tier, and this is called Secret. I've got mine chilled down. I like my rosés here pretty cold. You could serve them a little warmer and get a little bit more aromatics, but when they're cold, that acidity is just like a scalpel or a chisel going in, and you can feel that thing just slicing through things. I had a little bit of cheese just before I started the program, and I can tell you I no longer taste any cheese because that wine has erased it from my palate and just really drilled through with great minerality, and I like it quite a bit. You guys are welcome to come off of mute and chat with me at any point. We're a smaller group tonight. Denise and Elizabeth, Dennis, I'm sorry, tired about
We switched our names. This is really nice. I mean, I just taste floral.
uh-huh.
The lavender a bit. I just was like, oh, this is a great way on a beautiful sunny afternoon. Oh, this is lovely. This is really lovely.
Bless you. Yes, wonderful. I'm glad you like it.
Yeah.
Cindy, thanks for joining us tonight.
Hi.
Hi.
This is I was eager to do the rosé tasting because sometimes I think of French rosés as being so light, and I wanted to learn more. I wanted the secrets to be revealed, and this one I really find amazing. So thank you.
Okay, well, sometimes the French ones, when they have to make them to be uh extra consumer friendly, meaning low in price, they just basically use large crops. Potentially, you could even think of some winemaking as being like you're growing these great grapes, and then the accounting department says something to the winemaker. We need that bottle to be able to sell at a retail store for $20.
There she is.
They do some math, and they say, okay, we got to add this much water to make that wine hit that price point. It's called
Oh, wow.
watering back. It's not widely discussed, but you could do that. And that's certainly not what's happening here. But it is a way that some producers can get their wine by volume cost in that spot. And that's why some French rosés, especially at that low price point, can really, and the other scenario is that they're just working with vineyards that have huge yields, where they're getting, instead of, I'll speak about tons and acres. They talk about hectoliters per hectare, but in a good California vineyard for rosé, 5, 6, 7 tons per acre. That's pretty much what you would need to make a rosé of value in California. But you could get a vineyard to give you 10, 12 tons per acre. And just that the quality of the fruit starts to suffer because the yields, plus you're probably keeping that, in California, we're keeping that sprinkler on or that watering system on, so that vine can get these big, watery, wet grapes that could produce a lot of volume, but the detail is missing. And so when you farm at a high level, you're going to get a smaller crop. You're going to get more tension, more structure, more concentration. There's things you could do with red wines where you can put the wine in wood, have it evaporate. You don't really get that opportunity with rosé. You change the rosé. There is a rosé that we're going to taste tonight that did see some wood, but with rosés here, it's mostly stainless steel. All you can do is dilute. You can't really increase the concentration. So you have to start off with amazing fruit, and that's why this wine is the way it is.
Mhm.
It's hard not to drink that. All right. I'm going to go into wine number 2. There's really no slouch tonight. There's different price points, but we're only drinking 5 rosés. Might as well make them good.
Mhm.
So now we're going just a little bit further south, a little deeper into the Mediterranean, and it's still considered France.
Corsica.
They call it Corsica or Corse. And this is a region that has been making wine for a while, but most of it was drunk in Corsica or in France about 25 years ago. Corsican wines started to be imported into America, and one of the leading importers of Corsican wines was Kermit Lynch. Kermit Lynch got there and was able to go and basically snag the top producers. And his reputation was already established with some great brands throughout France. He's really kind of a French expert. He's kind of grown into Italy as well, but got some great brands. Now, today, there's some new great brands that some importers are bringing in, but from like the late 90s till 5 years ago, Kermit almost had a corner on the business of Corsican wine because Corsica is so small, you can't really be a large volume producer. So there wasn't a lot of Corsican producers coming into America with success. Only Kermit Lynch was finding that spot. This is one of his jewels,
Mhm.
Clos Canarelli. It is, this is kind of the famous island where Napoleon was sentenced and lived out his life.
Mhm.
This is a brand that really was, relatively new, didn't come in with 200 years of experience, but got started when he saw the opportunities in Corsica, came in with a high business acumen, and passion for things like organic farming and lots of high ethos in the farming. So brought that to Corsica, which is just this dramatic landscape, a lot more hills and trees than people. Couple of city centers, pretty good population in those city centers, but lots of farmland, lots of produce, great atmosphere for you to be a grape grower, focused on quality. And so that's what
Yeah.
they're to do. They go in, everything's done naturally, indigenous yeast, um, very high ethos here. You can see the winery facility, beautiful, simplistic, but for an island location, pretty wow. And here's a look at our vigneron. The wine is around $35. When we click through,
Orange zesty.
you can see the cepage, the grape blend here. Ciacarlu, Uccellu, and Grenache are the grapes. The first two being indigenous. This wine goes natural ferments, gravity flow. Um, there's some concrete and also some egg-shaped cement, almost like amphora. The cement actually works really well with some rosé. There's some skin contact, direct to press. The grapes are grown the way they are grown. Some experimental types of projects as well. Always kind of pushing the envelope, looking for some new things to do. This is a really good producer. You get some great press. New York Times, Wall Street Journal, many news outlets have focused on this particular brand and Kermit Lynch and really brought people to be aware that there's some really good wines in Corsica. When you smell this wine, you immediately can smell a little bit more saltiness. This wine is also benefiting, and this is the thing about higher tier rosé. We have the 2020 and the 21 in our house. 2020 is drinking beautifully. The 22 is available. The 23 is probably almost here. This wine spends a little bit longer in production than even a Provence rosé. It's got a little bit more character to get a little bottle age. I'm really wanting you to appreciate the nose here has developed a little bit more character because it does have some bottle age.
Very nice.
What are your thoughts? Hi, Rachel. Good to see you guys. Thanks for joining us. Cindy, I'm gonna look for your comments. Dennis and Elizabeth, let us know what your thoughts are too. Gary, how are things? You doing all right, Gary? Good, good.
Sorry about that. We lost our connection for a minute.
Oh,
You went
can
blank and we're like, oh no, I'm taking notes. This is really nice. I can taste the orange. I get the orange very much, but still there's that floral character, kind of the undertone.
That
Very nice.
saltiness
Yeah.
at the top of the nose, which really kind of sets the stage, kind of separates this out. It's definitely, wines that grow on islands have something a little bit more impactful. That's that saltiness, that salt air, but also just think about that sun. It can be very cold, very windy, very rainy, very hot. So you get those extremes and it kind of just does things to the wine. You might even sometimes with some island wines even smell the sun and kind of like a sunburnt character or sun-drenched character. And it kind of draws out some, not necessarily in rosé because the skin contact is so minimal, but maybe even more so actually in white wines, because they just show off their place so much more transparently.
What kind of food would you pair this with, Ian?
Mm. I think, just think about being, what grows together goes together. Put ourselves in south of France or Corsica right now and think about like any kind of shellfish, um, seafood, maybe I could even imagine like a seafood soup or broth or cioppino, something even with some, maybe some capers or a small amount of tomato. Um, yeah, I'd like any of those things. I like rosé with clam chowder quite a bit. It actually goes pretty nicely, white or red. Um, some clam chowders don't even have a color when they're made without the cream or without the tomato. They can have like a broth like seafood um um it's kind of like a broth, I guess, seafood.
Someone said oysters in the chat. That sounds really good.
All right.
That's really well. Yeah.
Yeah, that sounds all good to me. I make I do this thing with I love scallops. Have to be good though, and so I don't eat them very often anymore. But Gary, you live down the street from Santa Monica Seafood. You can walk in there, ask for fresh day boat scallops. They can be quite large, and you just slice them super thin. You put them on a plate with some olive oil, squeeze some lemon, some capers, some salt and pepper. With this rosé, that would be sizzling great, or the first. Any of these rosés tonight would be great with that kind of ceviche like preparation of day boat scallops, shrimp cocktail, grilled seafood. Yeah, any kind of barbecued fish. I love that summer night barbecue. Starting to see some corn coming into the farmer's market. It's some what's really fun is Mexican corn. What is it? It's not Mexican corn. It's called street corn, like all
Elote.
those spices and stuff on the outside and a glass of rosé. That's a great combo.
Mhm.
I'm getting hungry. All right. And rosé do that too. Rosé actually does enhance the appetite, much like Sauvignon Blanc or many other high acid whites. Those wines just accelerate your saliva gland activity, your digestive activity, really erases flavors in your mouth, but stimulates your appetite to keep going. All right, moving into wine number 3. Now, this is wine number 3 is one of our best-selling wines of all time.
Only 3.
At my store, not a big store, but finding a unique wine that a lot of people don't have is maybe like my strategy and my advantage is I could not compete with some of the wines that you're going to find at Costco. And if they're in Costco, they don't make a lot of sense for me to try to sell them either. So I'm always looking for stuff that has a little bit, smaller producers, a little bit more artisan. But as the price points go down, it's can get a little tougher because, some of those wines, when they get a lower price, they got to make more wine. They got to have more homes. So South Africa, though, the dollar has gotten so strong in South Africa, and the value proposition that these wines continue to deliver to America is pretty crazy. Yeah, the pandemic took prices up, made everything a little bit more expensive, especially shipping. But this is a magical place to make wine, and if with the economics the way they are, the rand, which is their currency, is in it's in pretty low form right now. It's been that way for a while. It's probably never been great, but it's even gotten weaker. And so I'm really hoping that South Africa can find its footing and build back because, man, there are some awesome wine brands there that are counting on the governments there to figure that stuff out. They've had other issues too. There's some cultural things happening. There's some disputes in the governance and taxes and even drinking laws. During the pandemic, they weren't even allowed to buy wine in South Africa. They did just during the pandemic, you weren't allowed to buy wine, and so South Africa really got dependent on exporting wine. This is a family operation. Story may be just a little bit different as I'm sitting here today because Simon Back is an older gentleman, and he exited his financial position in the winery. Not sure if the entire family has remained. I think they have, they maybe sold the wine brand to an investor, but I was told initially that things wouldn't be changing that much. But I know Simon is no longer at the winery. And so the property goes back to 1916. It was recently sold, but still remains a family operation. It was just time for Simon, who was quite old, to exit his financial position. And I think his son is still in place as the winemaker. Got to get that update. But this is coming from just an amazing landscape again. I have been to South Africa on a couple of occasions. I have not been to Backsberg, but I have seen that mountain range. And I can tell you that there is just a perfect environment for growing, world-class grapes there. It's almost like a slice of Europe and a slice of California put together. They've got uh, the right temperature, and then this kind of European culture. So it's really kind of one foot in both worlds.
Mhm.
They are using Pinotage to make this wine, and Pinotage is an interesting grape variety on its own. It tends to make a red wine, but here they have decided to make a rosé with it.
Mhm.
Um, this version is the 2022 that we're tasting, and that just came in recently. I've been carrying this wine since probably, well, since the store opened, and it was probably the 18 or 19 vintage that I first brought in.
Mhm.
Um, grapes are picked before they're fully ripe at 21 degrees Brix. So that's just a little bit of sweetness. Uh, they
Yeah.
want to keep that acidity high, keep it crispy. Stainless steel, cool fermentations, controlled through using stainless steel tanks with refrigeration. Keep that temperature cool. That slows the fermentations down, keeps the ferment temps lower, keeps the fruitiness brighter. Because when you get hot fermentations, you can really stew the wine. My review is from the 2020 vintage. I'll be reviewing it again here, 2022 review. We'll maybe start forming that tonight. You can smell the nose here. It's got a more ripe, fruit-oriented nose, but is it all fruit? It's kind of got a little savory there too. And again, kind of mouth-watering. Um, I'm not sure if it's today's weather, my current hunger, or whatever, but everything's making me hungry. Um, there's a little bit of a saltiness again here. Again, this is South Africa is like completely, you're not far from the ocean anywhere that you are at when you're in Stellenbosch. You can see oceans to the right and oceans to the left at certain elevations. So lots of ocean influence. 1916, that's when the brand started. Great classic producer of, they make some wonderful Pinotage reds, which we also carry. We also carry their Chenin Blanc, which is called Steen in South Africa. And they're a great Chenin producer. Now here's the magic of this wine, $13. And when I started selling it, I think it was $11.95. So it's really gone up a lot, like 10%. But this has got a bigger personality, doesn't have quite that same minerality as we did when we were in Corsica or in the south of France. Pretty assertive in 22. I really feel a lot of that red fruit coming rushing through. It's got some like sour plum. And my saliva gland is just like in overdrive tasting this. It's a really an interesting flavor profile. I will say I think this wine is a little bit more red wine like than prior softer vintages. I'm not sure how to justify that. I'm not saying it's a bad thing. It's probably a better thing. It's like the wine took a step up in its power And for some, that might be in the wrong direction if you don't like the flavor of Pinotage. I think the acidity is a little lower though. And you can really feel the acidity, the way this wine finishes. It kind of put it in your mouth, you taste it, you experience it, you go, wow, wow, wow. And then that finish is just like pretty short and pretty, it is, the finish is finished with that final taste. So that's also kind of the slope that we were on, going from $50 and $40 rosés that have this incredible tail of acidity. That's what you're paying for, those yields, etc. But here in this riper zone, I think they did a pretty good job of giving us something pretty South African. And I think I need to keep tasting it a little bit to see where I really fall on this. I'd love to hear from you what your thoughts are. In Your Face Strawberry, Cindy, was that on this wine here? That was 6 minutes ago. Maybe it was the wine before.
No, it was this one. I think it really hit me hard with the
Cool.
first sip.
Good.
In a good way. In a good way.
Yeah, good. And I like the idea of having this with something like, imagine having it, because this is what I'm imagining having right now, a toasted bagel with salmon, capers, tomato, red onion. This this even smells like I get a little
Mhm.
hint of dill and a little bit of that kind of the color, salmon color, almost the smell of like with that saltiness and stuff like that. I can really smell the connection with something like salmon, especially cured salmon.
Yeah, I can really taste the strawberry in the beginning, and then it just smooths, and then it just stops. That
Yeah.
not in a bad way stop, but just kind of disappears and it's not in your mouth anymore.
Yep. I like the use of the strawberry. Um, and kind of I smell more of that sour plum. There is this Asian candy that I often reference when I'm tasting wines that's made from like dehydrated plums, and they salt them in Asia, so you put it in your mouth and you get this almost salty, massive flavor, and it's kind of like um, something you suck on, help with your throat, and it's not actually a candy. It's just literally a dried plum that they salted to preserve the plum. If you ever get to an Asian H Mart or something like that, you can find those. They're pretty delicious and widely uh, consumed throughout different Asian countries. Three wines. We get a little commercial about my Heroes of Chardonnay next week. If you haven't already signed up, I'm going to encourage you to do so. The wine list is crazy great. From Chablis
There.
to Puy Fusé. I've got 6 interviews with different winemakers. A couple of them will be live with us next week. Chardonnay is definitely been on the decline for a couple of years as far as how much attention people are giving it versus the past. But Chardonnay's not been in decline as far as quality. I think the Chardonnays that we're making today are the best I've ever tasted. And we're going to taste a subset of those next week. Some really good stuff. Interesting things happen when you're in the event business. If you live in Los Angeles, I do some pretty crazy elevated dinners. One of them is called the 100-point dinner. And so basically all the wines are very close to 100 points. I think of the 21, about 7 of them actually got 100. About 7 of them got 99 points, and the other 7 are around 98 points. They're all considered like champions in their category. And we taste across a number of different, you could have a Barolo next to a Bordeaux, next to a Napa Cab, a Pinot next to a Nebbiolo, next to a Syrah. So, but all the wines are blind, and I'll let you pick which ones you like. You can guess which one you think it is, and you're tasting a really amazing comparative set. And that's what the 100-point dinner lets us do. We were planned to do it at Jar Restaurant, one of my favorite restaurants in LA, but Chef had to go out of town. And just as she was planning to go out of town, her general manager gave notice, and now she doesn't have a general manager either. So she asked me to move, and I'm moving the dinner to the Peninsula in Beverly Hills. It's going to be a great dinner. We're still intact, and it'll be our first event back at the Peninsula since 2019. I'm excited about it. All right. We are not continuing down in price point or anything. I think if you were to call me and say, Ian, I want a rosé that excites you, what's new, what's cool, what's exciting, I would turn you on to this. I say that, I'm going to pour it in the glass and taste it with you. I hope I say the same thing. But I have been in love with this wine. It's teeny producer, super high quality, Piedmont Nebbiolo. That's the grape that makes Barolo. This is a rosé style from a really good producer, Piedmont, Northern Italy. Going there, it's also time for a commercial. Going there in on the first week of December. I tell people to have Thanksgiving with your family, eat leftovers on Friday, get on a plane on Saturday, meet me in Piedmont on Sunday, December 1st. It's truffle season. We'll be going truffle hunting. We've got all kinds of wine activities and non-wine activities, cooking classes, truffle hunting, olive oil, cheese. I mean, this is a land of plenty in that regard. Oh, hazelnuts. This is the hazelnut capital of the world. The most expensive hazelnuts come from Piedmont. They mostly, by the way, end up in Japan because they will pay crazy prices for those hazelnuts. But this is where Nutella was started. And there are versions of Nutella that we can try from smaller, more artisanal producers that will convince you that that's one of the greatest foods on earth. So we do all that, plus we're seeing about 7, 8 great producers. And when we visit a producer in Piedmont, it usually means we're sitting down for lunch or we're sitting down for an extended period of time. Their hospitality is intense and lengthy. We taste a lot of wines. We might do some barrel tasting. Anyway, come with me to Piedmont. This winery, super fun. This producer makes a number of different wines in Piedmont, some different types of white varieties that haven't been super popular with a lot of other producers, but these guys are really kind of able to tap on some unturned stones and bring back, kind of get people excited about some ancient grape varieties that were pretty much on the list of extinction. So they do some of that. They do some great Nebbiolo reds, Barolo, and then this Rosé. Here's a look at our property. They all look like that. They're all in heaven. Barolo is one of the most beautiful places on earth. The colors in November, you're going to see reds and yellows and greens. And there's no such thing as a bad meal in this part of the world. Every Italian restaurant knows exactly what they're doing, very much made from scratch, small venues. Nebbiolo grape is always kind of like subtle to look at, and then you put it in your mouth and it goes bam. It's got this explosive grip and tannin that's really unique to this grape variety. You just swirl this around. It's got this crazy orange color. And by the way, red wine from Nebbiolo has an orange brown hue to it as well. When you smell it, super restrained. You got all those Northern European smells, earthy, some slight vegetal leafiness. Nebbiolo, they tend to say smells like tar and roses. So think rose petals. The tar always kind of got, what do I mean tar, but like the smell of fresh tar is more a red wine aromatic. I don't think you're going to get that here, but that's the extremes of Nebbiolo. So you go from rose petals to road tar. Definitely the rose petals here. Really floral, pretty. Here comes that tannin. Put it in your mouth. Get the berry fruit. Then all of a sudden it's like a clamp. It starts clamping on your tongue. You can feel that. And it's got this really fun mouth effect. I love this with food. And quite honestly, it almost could act like a red wine, a little bit more of a red wine. Let me give you a great dish with this wine. Great pasta. Buy make your own pasta or buy an elevated pasta that when you cook it, you can almost eat it and enjoy it on its own. Might have a little bit more of an al dente kind of character because fresh pasta tends to have a little bit of a thicker skin. Let's get some fresh vegetables, saute them in olive oil. Sure, a little garlic, a little white pepper, red pepper, salt. Put it in on top of the pasta. Use some really good olive oil and buy some from my website. If you've never had the difference between regular like store-bought olive oil and great olive oil, this will change your life. I'm telling you right now. God, I'm tired. Olive oil. Here we go. Yeah, this is the best in the world, by the way. Giuseppe Cortarelli. His wines sell for like $400 a bottle. So a bottle of his olive oil, 65 bucks on my website. Damn, I wanted to show you others. Let me see if I can go back to that. Do I have it here? Olive oil. Okay. Olive oil. I got a couple others. Who Telegraph. Why do I have these? They're not huge sellers, but I cook a lot. And I love to cook. I love to do food pairing. I gift olive oil a lot because it's almost kind of like a little lame when I give somebody a bottle of wine. But a bottle of olive oil can change your outlook because all you need for a great salad, simple greens, some cucumber, red onion. Tomatoes are finally coming in, but when they're not in, stone fruit or pear. Olive oil, like this quality olive oil. And the other secret life-changing ingredient, white balsamic vinegar. This one, not anyone else, no one else's white vinegar. This one. This is one of the best in the world. And this and olive oil is the only salad dressing you will ever need ever again. Salt and pepper requirement, but that's it. Don't have to buy salad dressing ever again. Just this olive oil on a salad. Spectacular. All right, so back to that pasta. God, man, I'm hungry. We just talked about a salad. So you have that salad course, then you get that pasta, and you get the sauteed vegetables, and put a little olive oil on top. Then the secret ingredient is the only thing, and it's kind of steaming. Okay, the bowl of pasta, fresh vegetables, whatever they are, top of the season. You know, I'd love to see some lima beans or some other type of bean in there, maybe some fresh tomatoes from the garden, maybe some zucchini blossoms, capers, caper berries, anything. The secret ingredient, egg yolk. That's your dressing. If you have a hard time eating a raw egg, I understand. Put it on there, toss it. Salt and pepper, egg yolk, and this red wine. Bam! That is going to knock you down. Buy a really good egg. In Piedmont, the egg yolks are like bionic orange. And it just you can't believe how good the eggs are in Piedmont. Everything in Piedmont tastes so good. And that dish was served to me in Piedmont, and I've made it at home a couple of times. It's never been as good as when I had it in Piedmont, but it's getting better. I'm getting better at it. I'm getting closer. Take a look at that. Such a beautiful spot. That's like every hill in Piedmont.
Yeah.
Every vineyard in Piedmont looks like an amphitheater. And Pavarotti's at the bottom singing to the vineyards. Or Bocelli. $24. This wine, as it's warming up too, the nose is really starting to come alive. Mine was pretty cold. Me likey. I hope you do too. Good. Thanks, Elizabeth. Thanks, Rachel. Rachel, what's your friend's name?
This is Katie. She did the rosé with me last year, actually, so she came back. She enjoyed it so much.
Yes.
Oh, thanks, Katie.
Yes. Thank you for having me.
Katie with a K?
Yes.
K. Cool. Cindy, tell me how this one treated you, because this one is a curveball.
Number 4, you mean?
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I liked it. I thought it was kind of surprising. And it was another one that I would serve with food. I make ribs with a dry rub, and I think that this would hold up to that.
Cool.
Not super spicy ribs, but
do you need
yeah.
a sauce with your ribs?
I do a mop sauce. Maybe if I did the mop sauce, that would overpower a rosé. But
What's a mop sauce? So like
you know what?
mop it all
It-
up with the sauce?
it goes when it's on the grill. It's just, believe it or not, yellow mustard and apple cider vinegar and salt,
Ooh,
and it
yeah.
just kind of, yeah. It like I can't explain it. The first time I read the recipe, I said, "No way, I'm doing that." Then we tried it, and now it's a staple every year. So, yeah, mop sauce, Memphis ribs with a dry rub and mop sauce.
Well, ribs are a huge part of what I do to have fun, because I do a lot of picnicking. I go to the Hollywood Bowl a lot,
Yeah,
and my favorite thing to take to the bowl is I take some baby back ribs. I put them in the oven the night before at like 275, and I cook them
yeah.
for 12 hours. And
Oh, wow.
with that same, probably that same rub, you don't have to put any sauce on it until like the last hour. You might not even be able to avoid it entirely. But if you do a great dry rub with that slow cooking, it's a long, slow cook. I think
Yeah.
it can be like 260. I can't remember the exact temperature, but I go to bed at midnight and I wake up at 8, and because we're talking about like a Sunday night show, because I'll
Yeah.
go on Saturday night, and I'll put them in the oven. And the reason I'm waking up at 8 in the morning is because the entire house smells like ribs. It's a good way to get out of bed.
That's great.
Rachel likes the idea of having this with a brat. Oh, sure, bratwurst. Yeah. I mean, that could be perfect. Some grilled bratwurst is summertime food, and that's a great solution. I live less than 100 yards away from the best sausage place in LA. It's called Verskouche. It's in downtown LA. I live like right down the street. Love that place. But if you've never been to Verskouche, you gotta understand this place sells 40 different sausages. They don't make any of the sausages. They buy them from all over the world, but they're like champion sausages from the South. Like they have a sausage made from lamb and curry, and then they have a sausage made from all over the world, but they bring in some brats from, I don't know if they're actually German bratwurst, but they're really good. And they make the world's best French fries, though. They cook them twice, and wow, that's making me hungry too. All right, so let's get past this whining into our final one, because we are in wine number 5. So there's no way this class tonight's going to go an hour. Sorry about that. I'm so hungry tonight. I've been on a diet, trying not to eat past 7 at night. totally sucks because now I'm starving. I'm probably going to go straight to a hamburger place and have a triple. All right, so we go into Provence for some rosé. This is like a classic benchmark wine, south of France, really close to Provence, where we were on the ocean in Provence. Bandol is another sub-appellation of Provence. And in Bandol, they've been making wine, especially rosé styles, for a long time. And the style here is more of a long aging wine. And what I'm showing you is a 2021. But what I wish I was showing you was a 2012, because this wine actually could age a decade and doesn't even get really interesting until it's like 5 years old. It needs another year. So I took a big position with the 21 vintage. I'm hoping next year I do the same show and we're still tasting the 21. As a small wine shop, when I say a big position, I've got like 10 cases of this wine. Somebody might find out, hey, Merchant of Wine's got 21, because they're now selling the 22 and they'll be selling the 23 pretty soon. But just I don't know how long it's going to take for 10 cases of 21 Bandol to go through here. I could be asking you to buy them in 12 years. Like, please. But here's a look at the south of France. That's in the Côte de Provence. Bandol's over here. I want to thank my designer for trying to screw me up. Let me show you where Bandol is. Right there.
Mhm.
Bing. Okay. Share screen just came off, right? There we go. Back. All right. So we know where Bandol is. Côte de Provence down here, Côte de Provence over here. This is a property that was he bought the property in 1963. In 1941, the AOC Bandol was created. Um, 1980, the son gets involved and renovates the brand. There's a couple of famous Bandol producers that get a lot of money for their wine. I could carry those wines, but there's just no way to make sense of those wines because they're so expensive. It's like it would be like me trying to sell $100 Bandol, and Rosé is already slow enough to sell. I can't imagine how long it takes to sell the other stuff. So we carry this one at the top of our chain. This is a Domaine Terrebrune. And you can feel the power here a little bit. You can see what they're trying to create here is got a little bit more of like an orange peel or a citrus peel character. Again, they're leaning into the description of wet roses. So you really kind of have to think about that for a second. Potpourri might be a better way to think of the floral element here. I think potpourri, kind of dried flower petals. Some bitters, like in a cocktail. That's a cool descriptive. And a minty and peppery note. Pale salmon color, delicate aroma, zest of red grapefruit. Get some different citrus peels involved here. And lemon, exotic, spicy character. Passion fruit. Wow, nose is amazing on this wine. I think a picture can really help dial in, much like the other pictures of Provence, just a little bit more recessed back. It's actually further away than it might look, probably a mile to the ocean there. Older vines grown with the idea of making wine that's going to age. Lower yields, a little bit more oxidative in winemaking, some use of wood, big wood, no, less stainless steel, more let's teach this to age. They're not in a hurry to get this off of the skins so much. It's not direct to press. This is more skin contact, early harvest, high acid. This price is $15 less than it probably should be. It is a wine that sells for close to $50 now. The 22, it's coming in. It would make me charge $50. Let me click in and see. Here we go. Blend of Carignan, Grenache, Mourvedre. $32. Let's taste it. You can feel the tension, the tightness, how often, not only do I often swirl my glass with my hand, but the way we talk about wines and it's kind of like this circular energy. And when you think of a wine that's really tightly wound, that circle is very small. And as it gets older, that circle gets a little bigger, a little bit more accessible. And that's what we're doing here with this wine. A year ago, this wine, when we brought it into the store, had so much tension, it was almost undrinkable. I mean, it was just hard and wasn't relenting and didn't give you a lot of access. Now it is giving you some. And there's like a really wonderful, generous pool of character. Once you get inside there, taste it, feel it. But it's still got all these aromatics that are building up momentum. And you think of $32 bottle of rosé, how great can it get? But seriously, if you can let it get, 5-6 years on this wine, it's pretty special. And you could literally drink this wine instead of a red wine or instead of a aged white at a special dinner. And I'd love to keep this in the plant, the idea of with all the citrus and the vegetables and the fish that we've had, but now you can introduce baked chicken, lamb. They do a lot of things in the south of France with like beans and pork and some really creative dishes. So I love this wine with more than just a cocktail. It's a food wine. It's a dinner wine on a great night on the porch, sunset. It's got a lot of food applications. So thank you guys for sharing this with me, and have a good night. My Dodgers won today, so it's a pretty good day.
Big time, they did.
Yeah. Yeah. Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Take care. Ciao.